Diversity has no place as a criteria for hiring and promoting in law enforcement. But it appears that's exactly what's happening inside the NYPD. I analyze various topics for you daily. Many get me fired up, many others frustrate me, and then a few deeply concern me, and this is one. There's something happening right now inside the New York City Police Department. And even if you don't live in New York City, it should concern you because there are two global law enforcement agencies that all the others tend to follow, and I mean worldwide. It's the FBI and the NYPD. That's why I do so many segments on the FBI. When the FBI tests a new handgun or they decide to make a switch in the type of ammunition they use, many departments, not just around the United States, but around the world, follow suit. Same with the NYPD. When the NYPD writes a new book on things like disorder control or patrol protocols, the rest of the world tends to follow because these organizations are among the oldest and the most professional at what they do. And they've literally written the book on many of the strategies that are deployed around the world by law enforcement agencies around the world. But what's happening in the NYPD right now is very, very concerning. There's a reshuffling of chiefs and senior management. And it's being done, there's a good story in the New York Post about it, but it's being done, quote, because, quote, the NYPD has been under pressure from the city council to diversify its upper ranks. Now, my sources inside the NYPD, and there are many, my old friends that I worked with, are telling me that this initiative is being driven by the far left members of the city council, but even more troubling, by Bill de Blasio's wife, Charlene McRae, herself a very far left radical. Now, look, I have no problem with merit-based promotions of anyone who's qualified. One of the best bosses I ever worked with, who was also a gentleman, one of the greatest guys I've ever worked with, was an African-American sergeant, a black sergeant. This guy was such an outstanding street cop, and his reputation preceded him. He was an incredibly well-respected detective with an impeccable track record. I mean, this guy closed every case in one of the busiest precincts in Brooklyn that came across his desk. And he was funny, and he was witty, and he was engaging, and he treated us incredibly well. He was a tough boss. He demanded you do your job, but he was a guy that commanded respect. He was a lawyer. He was actually a New York City police sergeant and a lawyer. And he commanded respect, and you did your job better because you didn't want to let the guy down. You aspired to rise to his level on the job. His color had nothing to do with that. He wasn't promoted because of his color. He was promoted and he had the respect he had because of his work ethic, because of his professionalism, because of his competence, because of the way he interacted with people and respected them. I had friends who were Hispanic officers and Asian officers and women and gay, and all of them, people that I chose to work with and ride with or work on certain special teams with, were people that I trusted. Their race, their sexual orientation, their nation of origin, their religion, none of that mattered to me, nor did mine to them, because we were all wearing blue. And those bullets the bad guys might fire at us, they didn't care. They didn't care if my partner was gay or my other partner was black or one was Hispanic or one was Jewish or one was an atheist. They didn't care. You were going to be there dead or seriously injured just the same. And so you learned to back each other up and you treated people the way they treated you. That's why I have to laugh when people say law enforcement is a racist institution. It's probably the most non-racist institution on the planet. I've never seen more interracial relationships than I've seen in law enforcement. It was commonplace. It was commonplace among cops or cops and members of the public that they met. It was really a colorblind job. And these false narratives from the left and groups like Black Lives Matter really are unfortunate because they tarnish the great work our law enforcement people do day in and day out. They're colorblind. I've said this on the show before. When I would get a priority call and we were racing lights and sirens to that violent crime in progress, we never went over the radio and said, what color is the victim? What race is the victim? What religion is the victim? What gender is the victim? What sexual orientation is the victim? We didn't care. We were going to get there as fast as we possibly could to save that person. We never even asked those questions. Those questions, forget asking them. They weren't even in our frame of reference. We did ask the race, the gender, the description of the offender, because we wanted to catch them on behalf of that victim. So to say law enforcement is racist is really ridiculous. But this reeks of racism, because this is a group of far left radicals in New York City saying, we don't care if the existing rank and file is competent. We don't care if the existing upper management is competent. We want to change the complexion of the department at the risk of changing the competence of the department. And that is a really bad thing. That's a very dangerous thing. And that trickles down to the ranks. Look, the NYPD's always had a problem called the hook. And the hook means if you have an influential family member, friend, colleague that's willing to make a phone call for you and get you into a better unit, or get you on a path to be a detective, or move you around into some very elite units that only have a small amount of open slots. And usually it's a family member. And it's very demoralizing if you don't have one. Now, I and some other people understood how to make our own. We would work as volunteers on political campaigns, and if those people got elected, well, then they became our hook. But a lot of cops didn't get that. And so they went through their entire career on patrol and working in a place they didn't want to work, and demoralized because somebody else had a bigger phone call, had a more significant person calling police headquarters saying, hey, take care of my guy, take care of my girl. Move them over into the scuba unit, or to aviation, or to canine, or to the detective bureau, any of these desirable special units that were given more prominent stature in the NYPD. And if you didn't know how to do that on your own, if you didn't have the entrepreneurial spirit to go out there and make your own hooks, it was a tough ride for you. You sort of floundered on patrol. And look, patrol is the backbone of the NYPD, but like any other job, after many years of doing it, you want to change. You just want to change. You want to see what else is out there in a department of 40,000 people. Well, this is as demoralizing as that, because this is now telling all of the white officers in the department, it doesn't matter what you do. It doesn't matter what you do. If a less active, less competent, less qualified candidate of a different race, a different gender, a different religion, different sexual orientation wants the slot that you're more qualified for, well, according to our city council, and from what I'm being told, the mayor's wife, they're probably going to get it. So what's the incentive for cops to be active? What's the incentive for those cops without the hook? That's the vast majority of the NYPD. I would say 80 to 90%, and that's probably conservative, don't have that hook that could get them moved around. What message does this send to them? That you're only worth your race? You're only worth your gender? It doesn't matter if you're the busiest cop in the city. And hey, it doesn't matter if you're an African-American man, if you're a black male cop who's busy and competent and an outstanding street cop. Because that black woman who does nothing, well, he's a little more diverse than you are, so we're going to give her the slot. It is so demoralizing across the board, but even worse, it's putting the wrong people in the jobs that need to be done by the best of the best. These are the jobs that respond and stop people from being killed, children from being raped, old people from being beaten and having their fixed income check stolen. We can't afford to have incompetent diversity hires in these roles. We need the best of the best, no matter what their race, what their religion, what their sexual orientation, what their gender is. It is irrelevant. These are not the jobs to be socially experimenting with diversity. But unfortunately, as often happens in New York City, the far left city council, the far left mayor's office, and it appears the far left mayor's family are putting political correctness way ahead of public safety. If you like this important content, and it really is important, I really want to keep getting this information out to you, please subscribe to our premium service at www.therebel.media/shows. If you're already a subscriber, thank you very, very much. I will be back with you on Monday. Have a great weekend.